Google Nest products. And I'm excited to kick off today's session. I'm going to first just introduce you, let you share a little bit about your individual businesses, and then we'll get right into it because we have a lot to chat about. So to my right, we have Jen Mallett from Level Up Your Home, and to Jen's right, we have Matthew Palmieri from Simply Smart Home. And
hello.
Pass the microphone back and forth. Exactly. So we'll start with you, Jen. If you could just introduce yourself briefly, share a little bit about your business, and what brought you to CEDIA this year.
Sure. Level Up Your Home has been in business for 4 years, but I've been in the CEDIA channel for 15 years and in consumer electronics for 20 years. I spent 15 years at Bose, where I managed the contractor network in the US and Canada, where we did EV installations. And so 4 years ago, I started Level Up Your Home and took on this category called Smart Home, which made people's eyes water, quite frankly, when you started talking to them about it. And it's been a huge game changer for our business in terms of providing a great amount of diversity and really an opportunity to upsell people while we're in the home, as well as a bunch of other benefits I think we'll get to. So we're very excited to be Google Nest Pro Elite in the New England area, as well as a few other markets.
Thank you, Jen. Matthew.
Hello, everybody. I'm Matthew Palmieri. I work with Simply Smart Home. We're based out of Toronto, up in Canada, and this is only our second CEDIA show that we've been to. I'm sure we'll tell some of these stories, but our business actually evolved from HVAC and plumbing. So we have a background in the Ontario market. It's very common to rent those pieces of equipment. So we've been renting tens of thousands of hot water heaters, tens of thousands of HVAC units, and now in the past couple of years, actually tens of thousands of smart home products. It's been a really fun ride to kind of understand. I actually used to be on the manufacturer side, sitting in this booth helping the Google folks, but now on this side of the business, understanding the challenges that integrators have and how it fits into business. But I do think Google and us specifically have a lot of assets to help grow your business, and yes, I'm just excited to be here sharing this with the audience and you guys.
All of you could share both sides of the equation, manufacturing and having your own consulting business. So let's dive right in, because I know this could be an all-day session. We will have to do that. For you, connected home technology is reserved for the luxury of being integrated. Today, Google Nest Assistant devices and platforms are really opening up these brand new markets, right, for professionals. With Google Nest products, the professional installers can serve both high-end installs as well as expand businesses into more downstream, more community companies, right? So, Jen, let's start with you. Worked at Bose for 15 years, amazing. You go veteran. You manage this channel, this whole customer channel, so a thing or two about this space. 4 years ago, you started your own business, right? It's a big move from Bose there. You mentioned kind of in your own thing that you're expanding beyond this AV installation to end-to-end smart home sector. Can you share a little bit about that journey?
Sure. As I started the company, I've been in business long enough where I experienced 2008. Anyone else experienced 2008 recession? That was rough, and a lot of custom integrators didn't make it. As a matter of fact, with part of my network that I had at Bose, I had to recruit more people. That was a very tough time to get through. And so when I started my company, I wanted to make sure, okay, we know AV really well. We're going to bring on a bunch of different brands, add networks and things because everything's Wi-Fi connected. And it was really important for us to add this diversification so that if we experience another recession like that, we've got something to rely on beyond luxury AV. So that was one of the really biggest reasons why we did it. And I think the consultative selling approach, all of our sales process really starts from a smart home consultation, which we'll talk about later. And, of course, we're talking about AV, but we're also talking about all these other categories. We're really looking to be the technology partner for people, right? Not only for that first point of service and installation, but really for the entire time that they own that home, and then their next home, and then their second home. So that's really kind of where we're going. And Google Nest has been really very helpful in terms of helping us build our business the last 4 years and support it with great products that work and do support the masses as well. It's a much lower barrier to entry than it used to be. If you look at some of the more luxury lines, you got to be in the 10, 15, 20K range, right? We've got a much broader demographic that we can speak to now and be their technology partner for the life of their home.
Really smart, no pun intended there. Matt, in our chat prior to this call, you mentioned that Simply Smart was originally a plumbing company, water heaters, HVAC rental companies in Ontario, but you've developed a model in recent years that produce more smart home devices. How did you make that strategic shift? That's we've been talking about here at Gene on stage yesterday, we've been talking about all the different channels that are starting to come together in the home environment. How did you take that?
Yeah, and I'd argue it's probably the biggest leap, right, out of all the, if you're already doing custom integration, to get into something like this it's pretty much a slam dunk. In our business, I think we've done a really good job of identifying trends, right? We saw specifically with Google and Nest, a brand that was pumping a ton of energy and a ton of money into building a brand that was ultimately then creating consumer demand. And we saw consumer demand as a way to actually, at first, and it still does today, it drives our other business, right? So when we get a lead from Nest, which we get plenty of leads from Nest, we know we can go into that home, we sell them whatever, say it came in for a Nest Marine thermostat, which has been historically our bread and butter as an HVAC company, and then we come and say, hey, have you seen the doorbell? Do you know about these other products? And it's eye-opening because these are experiences in these consultative sales that they don't get necessarily in retail, that they'll get from our highly trained sales team that can go in and have these conversations. So we kind of identified it as let's use this to grow our other business, and now it's one of our biggest businesses overall, so it's its own kind of channel, and we focus a lot of energy on it. But at first it was to feed our original business, which I do think for a lot of this audience too, if you are an integrator, there's a lot of runway of transitioning that $500 sale to a $5,000 sale, and then maybe down the road keep upgrading their system, and that's what we've been able to do.
Really, really amazing. This is the coffee that I'm going to start with Jen. So you've each established really interesting partnerships with Google and Nest, which in turn has helped you to grow your respective businesses. I think a lot of the folks that are here today are really interested in that story. Google is really serving as that lead engine, right? That's with a lot of different companies, integrators, other manufacturers. But Matthew, you shared a little bit, want to hear more about the pivotal you chatted about. But Jen, share first with this group, specifically what Google is doing. Matthew mentioned brand equity that Google is providing. From your perspective, how is it helping you grow your business?
I really think of it in three different ways. One is the diversification that I mentioned with the brand that is really pumping a lot of investment and marketing and lead referrals to us, which is great, which provides a lot of stability. The second is that there's this convergence happening, right, where all these different trades are in the home now. And so what Google Nest has really been able to do is to help us, really be that technology partner for that HVAC pro or that electrician that doesn't want to touch networks, doesn't want to do the security stuff, but they're in there because, they've done a thermostat, for example. So that piece of it's been tremendous. One example I have is that we partnered with a very large plumbing and HVAC company called the Granite Group, who's huge. They have 14 stores in New England, and they brought Google Nest products on, and they've bridged us with their builders and plumbers, and they want to stay in their lane, right? They want to just be able to partner with somebody that they trust. And the Granite Group, Google Nest introduced that relationship that we've been able to present to all of them. The third thing I'd say is that workforce development, and that's what's been really helpful for us, so that we've got a path to bring new people in, younger technicians, and start them off on something that's very easy to install, have some basic wiring, so that they have some sort of development path. Because at the end of the day, there's just, based on the demand, there's not enough people, right? We all have a labor workforce issue right now, And what a great way to take people out of technical school, people who aren't perhaps going to go to college, and give them, a career in something that's going to be exploding for a long time to come. And by the way, be able to step up into, maybe getting Control 4 certified, provide them some sort of path over the long term. So diversification, the convergence, and partnering with other professionals, and then also just providing workforce development for us to build our team.
Matthew, I want to talk a little bit about that Nest Protect giveaway that we were chatting about on the call. I think it was a really interesting way to build your business and share the story with the folks who know.
Yeah, so I think for the audience, if you're in the space and just looking inside of your business, if growth is important to you, and you're trying to find a way to acquire new clients, what are the things that we can do as integrators to attack the market? And what we looked at the Google Nest portfolio as a whole, and one of the most probably underappreciated and misunderstood products in the line is the Nest Protect, the smoke carbon monoxide detector. And data after data point supported the fact that there's majority of smoke detectors in North America aren't working, right? They've either expired or they're not installed, or they're sitting on the table next to you when you're in your bedroom. So we looked at that and we're like, okay, let's take Nest brand at the time, now it's Google Nest, but Nest brand at the time, and we're going to market, we will give you a free in-home sales consultation, not unlike doing like a timeshare presentation, and we'll give you a free Nest Protect. And so we're going to protect your home, and we're going to let you into this world of smart home, and so we ran some ads and kind of went viral. And the first week of running these ads, we had 42,000 people sign up in the Toronto area to get a free Nest Protect. Totaled up to 58,000 by the end, but we actually had to shut it off. We literally crashed the Nest internet that day. So kind of the point is when I was on the manufacturer side, a lot of the feedback I would get is there's no path to business, there's no margin, there's no, and yes, in this space there's a little bit less margin, but of those, of all those leads, it kind of pares down to the ones that qualify, and then with the installs that we did, very few people left with just the Nest Protect, right? And I think that's kind of goes without saying, but you have within your businesses opportunities to do similar type of offers or giveaways, things like that will bring people in, and it was hyper successful for us.
Super Bowl company for that. Jen, Matthew just shared with Nest Protect is one of the takeaways to a lot of the other businesses. So when we were chatting on our call before today, do you see in your business similar or a different product that's a gateway product for the smart home, whether it's a security camera, a thermostat, a doorbell, a digital assistant that leads to other business?
I would say it kind of has changed a little bit. I'd say initially 4 years ago, it was the thermostat, right? So a lot of energy companies around the country have been funding it, providing really generous rebates. So they'd end up with, a Nest thermostat, and they didn't know how to install it, or they tried to install it themselves, and they couldn't, right? So they ended up calling us through the lead referral program that Google Nest has. So I would say that was like the entry, and then once people got to control things and sort of understand it and live with it, they wanted other things. And quite quickly within Google Nest, they added things on. It was like next thing there were security cameras. Now I really think it's the video doorbell. Because obviously there's so much shopping. You see them here, there's a lot of different manufacturers, and that's been really big for us. And once you start having that one kind of set where you've got, okay, I've got a view of my front porch, it's very natural to also want cameras on the back and the front. And the consultative selling approach is really important, so that somebody comes in like wanting one thing, but really as integrators, we want to be working with multiple different systems, right? We don't want to be that single doorbell. We don't have time for that, and it's too expensive, honestly, right? We pay our people well; they know a lot. So we really look at those as opportunities to say, okay, which of these clients coming in want 3 or more things? And then we know if you get to 3 or more things, you're really talking about $2,500 when you add in labor, materials, and you get that introduction to be the technology partner for that customer, which is such a gift to be able to have that opportunity for somebody who's passionate about electronics and home automation.
Very interesting. I was sharing yesterday that my kids call me from under the umbrella now, so if my watch pings, it might be somebody getting home from school. But it really is an interesting, a development product, and I think we're going to see an acceleration of that as it starts to integration with televisions. And Google is helping to thread that integration.
Do you have the lock too?
It's
Fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Kids' birthdays, we all know. Great.
It is great. It is great. Matthew, I want to talk about something that's perhaps a little bit less covered in environments like this, but a really interesting opportunity. It's the Airbnb kind of evolution, right? With the rise of kind of shared living spaces and other services and rental services, how do you see these new markets kind of affecting this marketplace, right? With respect to kind of single owner homes?
Yeah, I think Airbnbs being one, even hospitality. There's numerous hotels and hospitality establishments right now that are looking to partner with smart home partners, and I can tell you they're going to need someone to install it. So there's going to be opportunities there. But the thing is, you may see a commercial for this stuff, or you may see it in the wild, or you may see it in the aisle of Best Buy, but until you live with it, right? And I think that's what you get with Airbnb or any of the hospitality. If you have that experience, or vice versa, if you have it at home, I know like every night I say, okay, G, I don't know if they're listening right now, but okay, G, turn off the lights, right? And the lights go off, and that's just I do that now when I lay in a hotel. I'm like, oh, and then oops, now I have to actually turn off the light. But so you start to have those experiences that become ingrained in your mind, and I think that's important to know for your consumers and for us as installers and manufacturers. They're starting to have these things be normal, and that's really good for our business.
Yeah. Jen, I want to talk about the generational differences of kind of home applications. You've been, as you mentioned, 15 years at Bose, 4 years in your current business. So very different from millennials that are growing up with technology as an expectation. Again, Matthew sort of shared go to a hotel room and just expect that OKG is going to sort of work there and everywhere that we are, right? Versus, perhaps an older generation. But we've discussed in a lot of the panels that we've had here, that the home checks, that these are folks that have they're aging longer, they're living longer, they have more disposable income and more time. How do you think about that in your business? And folks that are again, digital natives, right, that are wanting everything, and those that frankly have a lot of money and time, and how do you think about your approach in consultative selling tools?
Yeah, I think it's really important to the integrator industry as we kind of learn to understand this. The millennials are kind of like generation instant, I like to say, right? Like they haven't waited for anything. They haven't listened to a radio commercial. They haven't, they skip YouTube. Generation instant. They've got the patience of this. So home automation is an expectation. They will say, hey G, good night, and everything will happen, right? They won't have to touch anything. They don't have to figure out what to do with their free time, to be honest, right? And then there's the other side of it. We've got baby boomers, completely different. We found that with some of this, they've been a little bit more skeptical. So you might start with like an entry level product to get them in, but very quickly they go to whole home, and frankly, they're the homeowners, right? Millennials they tend to rent, right? So we've been doing a lot of condo associations, a lot of MDUs with millennials, and then homeowners and baby boomers have been really it's their home, but you kind of got to start a little bit smaller. I will say that, I can give you a few examples that we've had recently with people that have come to us through Google Nest referral program, and they're building new homes, and they want, a Google camera, right? So they start with that, they want 5 cameras. You go in, you have the consultation, and you develop a plan for them that really is a technology plan. It's not a Google Nest plan, here's your phases of how technology is going to go in your home over the next 5 years, and we're going to help you technology-proof it from really the wireless network, right, which is the foundation of smart home, all the way up. And I'll just share that, a number of those baby boomers, they have the dispensable income, right? They have the homes, they have the second homes, and Google Nest is a great way to, essentially get that product out in there. But by the way, also it works with other platforms, right? So we had a customer that came to us 3 months ago. He's building a new home. We did the consultation. Guess what? It's a 5,000 square foot house. oh, he's got audio, video in there. He needs an AV matrix. So we've got, $40,000 control floor system and Nest cameras, right? And that's thermostats too working in there. So you can mix and match, right? Different platforms, and that's our value as integrators, that we help those things work together. And that lead wouldn't have come to us if we weren't Google Nest partners. And we have many examples of that. So I know we always talk about margin because it's so critical to our business, but I think it's important to have a long view of it and really what that customer who's interested in technology, how valuable that is and what can you do with that.
That's an amazing story. I'm going to ask one final question because I know there's probably some questions from the audience that they want to ask. So, you started to mention many customers today are looking for smart home plans that take you 5 to 10 years into the future. This environment is changing so quickly, and everybody wants a trusted source that can kind of take them through their journey. We'll start with you, Matthew. How do you develop plans for customers today, right? When the technology is changing so rapidly, it's tough even for me, an expert in the space, to be keeping up on a minute-to-minute basis of all the changes that are taking place. And so for consumers, they're looking for that trusted guide. What are sort of the roadmaps, some guidelines for the custom installers that are in our crowd today to consider when they're developing them?
I think you actually, just in the question, kind of hit it on the head. They're looking for a trusted partner, right, or a trusted installer to do this. And I can tell you with full confidence that they're having a really hard time finding that. So what we do as far as building that plan is we have a bunch of different options, right? So there, in any situation, sales 101, right, you're going to have a high-end version of whatever it is you're going to be offering, right? And for a lot of our customers, that's strictly out of reach, right? Like they were looking maybe for a $250 thermostat that was our gateway in, and all of a sudden we're saying, well, you could have look at all this amazing thing you could have. Well, what's that going to cost me? And give them the quote, and they're going to back off. What's nice about some of the things that we're doing today, which I think might be interesting for people to look into, is you take that big monthly, or you take that big package, right? We actually break it into a monthly lease plan, right? So they're not actually even buying the equipment, they're leasing it from us. We'll actually offer to install it with a 30-day trial. They'll have it in their home. Obviously, they start to love it. And then now that $5,000 package becomes a attainable monthly payment. Again, something that consumers are not very used to. I'd argue a majority of this floor, right, there's the Netflix of the world, but there's a majority of people on this floor are paying some monthly payment for their phone or their multiple phones that are in their pockets. So it's not a stretch to say this technology is also going to come on, and then they say, well, I'm afraid it's going to go extinct in 3 years. Great, well, we're still going to be here because 3 years from now we can swap out your equipment, put in the new stuff. Good news for what we've found in the past few years is that hasn't necessarily happened. Like the cameras that are probably filming us right now, they're really, really good, right? Like they're fine, right? The original drop cam that went into Nest is still working perfectly fine. The Gen 1 Nest thermostat working perfectly fine. Some people though like to have the new stuff, and that's what this flexibility offers them. I want to touch quickly on the millennial baby boomer thing. Two, we have a lot of sales agents on our team that wouldn't even, they'd see like, Mrs. Johnson on a walker, there's no way she's going to buy it. I'll say, be very careful with that notion because they buy a lot. And what's changed that for our business is voice, right? So having a they may not have a smartphone, right? Or they may not be comfortable using it, but having access to all this stuff through a little, Google Mini or whatever voice control that they have, that changes it and expands your market in a big, big way.
For us, we look at the technology solutions and we think of it in 3 different ways. One is safety, right? That's cameras, security systems, comfort, temperature control, lighting, things like that. And then lastly, entertainment, which is fun stuff, right? That's kind of where we started, that's our passion. So one of the things that we implemented really recently in the last year is looking at a 3-phase plan, and we have, for every smart home consultation, essentially we've got safety and we have all the lists of different categories. It's brand agnostic, frankly. And then we have entertainment. Do you want outdoor TV, indoor TV, outdoor sound, right? And so we hit all those three different categories, and that does two things. One, you're creating a plan for the customer right there as you're doing the consultation, which is powerful because then they have something beyond just you typing notes later or delivering a proposal on site. Two, because it's three-phase, you can talk really about what's next, and people don't feel like they need to spend everything all at once, right? So it's also forward-looking. And the third thing it does, which is a big thing for our team, that they get, hey, we need for customers to know we do more than just Google Nest, and they come to us from Google Nest, right? Well, wow, that's a great way to list out, hey, you know what? These are all my capabilities. It's not just network. We also do all these other categories as well. So that's been really powerful for us, something we've implemented in the last year, and it's increased our average ticket. People value it. It's a very kind of valuable thing for them. They feel like they've got truly a professional.
Amazing advice. So security,
comfort, and entertainment is my favorite.
I wanted to open it up for the crowd. If you have any questions for this terrific panelist group, don't be shy. Not one. Any questions? No? Going once? Going twice? Well, I want to thank Jen and Matthew for an incredible panel. It's really amazing how you've been able to build your businesses. So kudos to you. I want to thank all of you for coming here for the past 2 days at the Google Nest Pro booth. I hope you enjoy CEDIA. I hope you learn something, and I hope you continue to help us build this incredible category. We say we're in the second inning of the connected home industry, so this is going to go into extra innings. We look forward to you being part of it. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the show. We'll see you next year.
Thank you so much.